Hey guys, it's Smurfs. Welcome back to Harpies in the Trees, where I review horror books with a supernatural focus. So it's one day to Halloween. I can't believe this month is already over, and I also can't believe how hot it is. Really don't like that. I really like my October to be nice and crisp. I decided to have some fun and get dressed up as I don't know what. I think I'm a New Orleans vampire who is very, very hungry and hasn't fed in a long, long time. So I'm looking pretty deathly at this point. So in today's video, I'm going to be reviewing with you the last of my October reads, which was Annabelle by Ruby Jean Jenson, The Possession of Natalie Glasgow by Hailey Piper, Mina and the Slayers by Amy McCaw, and Salem's Lot by Stephen King. And for tomorrow, I will have another video for you. It is going to be a wrap-up of everything that I read in October, which for me was massive. I won't be doing intense reviews about them or anything, just wrapping it up and tearing it based on how scary it was. But one of the reasons why I could read so much this month was because my work put us on furlough. But we are back, but things are really, really slow right now. So I've had a ton of time, and this was really, really nice. It was allowing me to get back into doing all the things I love, like reading a lot and answering comments and doing all the sorts of things that I used to do that I kind of just couldn't because I was so overwhelmed. So it was great. So that is why I read so much. I just fell in love with short stories. I know I've mentioned in previous videos in the previous years where I said I don't like short story collections, so I totally changed my mind on that. I'm totally loving them. I feel like they're this really great in-between filler for when you're reading and you just need a break. But you can't commit to something else. You know, you're already reading some 300, 400 page book. You don't really want to commit, but you need something, just something else, you know? And the short stories, I'm totally enjoying it. So I just did another book haul. I bought a bunch of short story collections. I can't wait to tell you about them. When everything is here, I will do that. Annabelle by Ruby Jean Jenson. This story is about a very wealthy family who lives in Louisiana. They live in a rural area where there's not many people, you know, you don't have a close neighbor or anything. It's kind of quaint and very picturesque and very lonely and empty. And the mother in this story, she's very young. She's probably like 25. Her husband is significantly older, and she's not digging this life. She wants to go out and find a career and just do exciting things and, you know, have that opportunity to live her life, except they have a daughter together. And this daughter, Jessica, is very, very young. She's like 5 years old. The mom feels that her need to go out into the world alone is much greater than sticking around and taking care of Jessica. So she sort of dumps Jessica on her husband, and she takes off to New Orleans, big city. This leaves her older husband feeling extremely annoyed and frustrated. He believes that women are the ones who are supposed to take care of children and clean and do domestic things. This should be their whole entire desire to live. And he's taking care of Jessica, but he's very, very unhappy that he has to. Meanwhile, Jessica has discovered something on her own, not too far from the property of their house. It is an abandoned home that she thinks is a castle. And when she goes towards this castle, she hears the name Annabelle being called. And very, very curious, she goes to see who it is. And this gets Jessica involved in a whole entire crazy situation that is highly dangerous. Now, I enjoy this. I thought it was fun. There is a lot of doll action in here, which you know that I totally love. There is a dollhouse in here that is like huge. Like, it's huge enough for a 5-year-old to be able to climb, like sit into one of the rooms. And I was like wondering if those are like really popular at the turn of the century or something. I just never had seen anything like that. So these dolls that occupy these doll houses are actually really, really large. And sort of the way that they move around and I guess get around and stuff is sort of like they have these invisible puppet strings, almost like these marionettes, and it really gives them a very creepy vibe. Though every time I do read doll horror, and even though I love doll horror, when dolls are attacking, I always find it to be like really funny because I'm like, just stomp on them, rip them apart. But like when I think about stop motion and I think about how weird that would look to see in real life, that's kind of how I always sort of imagine dolls to move around, and that's kind of what they do in here, is like this marionette type thing. There's an interesting situation between these dolls and this house. I wish the story got a little bit more into the meat of that, because when we're reading this story, we get these flashbacks to Annabelle. And we get to learn about this character's life and why is her name being like whispered in an abandoned house, basically. And it's pretty dark and it's pretty messed up, actually. There are some themes in here that are very strong, which is bad mothers and gender roles. For some reason, I feel like bad mothers and dolls really go hand in hand for some reason. The villain in this story is pretty nasty. I do wish, though, that we got to learn a little bit more about them, because when someone is a villain, you know, there's a story there, you know, there's a history there, there's a reason there, and I kind of wanted to know what that was, because I think it would have made it creepier. So I did enjoy it. I did think that it was a little bloated, like it kind of just had like a bunch of paragraphs about, I don't know, like stuff going on that just didn't really matter to the story at all. It kind of felt like it was there so that it could be an actual like book and not like, I don't know, a novella or something. But it was pretty fun though, and I think it was an enjoyable read. So I gave this one 3 out of 5. Mina and the Slayers is the next book after Mina and the Undead. And this picks up right after Mina and the Dead left off. So this story is about a group of teenagers, namely Mina, who works at a haunted house attraction in New Orleans. It's a really cool attraction too, because you would go into these rooms, it's totally experiential, and they base each room off of a popular horror movie. This takes place in the 90s, so it's mainly 90s horror films, which is pretty fun. But anyway, they all work there. But one of the things that's special about these group of teens is that they know that New Orleans has real vampires. There comes a point when Mina is introduced to the Slayers. And the Slayers is a group of people of all ages who are sort of like a vigilante group who kill bad vampires. So this exposes Mina to a lot of realities and things that she had no idea about or was completely wrong about. So this is a YA vampire series. It's very fun. It's not creepy cozy, but it's like vampire cozy. I'm not really sure how to say it, I guess, but it's a very cozy read. The beginning is also catching you up with like what happened in Mina and the Undead, so it's pretty like aggressively trying to get you caught up, which I'm not a big fan of that. I kind of like it to just be revealed throughout the story as it goes, but I'm also one of those people who I will hit that recap skip button on like series like so fast. But because of that, this could be a standalone, even though I don't think that you would get the full experience, you know? My favorite parts in this story though are, one, the haunted mansion that Mina works at. It's fantastic. Like the descriptions of these sets are so good. And the reason why they're amazing is because Amy definitely thought of like everything that would go into something like that. Sound design, lighting, costumes, murals, strobe lights, like all this type of thing where as I'm reading it, I'm just like, oh my God, I really wish that I could see this. Like, I wish I could experience the rooms in this haunted mansion attraction. They are fabulous. I also enjoyed the action scenes. I feel like those were really fun and just very realized. It was very cool and exciting. There are also a lot of musical references. So if they're going to a bar or to a club or they go to a store or something, she'll tell you the song that's playing, Creep from Radiohead, stuff like that. I also really liked the descriptions of the vampires. Like the vampires always smell really bad. They smell like gore. They smell like old blood. Their breath is always just like disgusting. Like I imagine like dog breath, like after they eat some raw meat or something. Like that's what I imagine it to be like. And I'm just like, and there's still also like the inspiration of Interview with the Vampire in here, which was in the original book, which was very cool. I like that. So I enjoy this. It was a lot of fun. I gave it 3.5 out of 5. The Possession of Natalie Glasgow by Hailey Piper. This wasn't actually on my list, but I decided to read it because I had some free time. And it's super, super tiny, so I decided to give it a read. This story is about a woman who has a daughter who's acting very bizarre. Like, she's growling, she only really comes out at night, she eats raw meat, and she's just very intimidating, very scary. And the mom is beginning to think that maybe she's possessed. So she's asked this woman, Margaret, to come and see what she thinks. She's some kind of paranormal investigator of some sort. So she comes and she evaluates the daughter and she gives her findings to the mom, which is not what she was expecting at all. This was really, really good. And I love the storytelling in this because it's sort of a minimal type of storytelling, but it tells it in this compelling way. It appears so effortless, but it's not. I love the flow. It completes itself so well, and it was just fascinating. It was a really cool, unique take on possession. I gave this one 5 out of 5. Salem's Lot. I made this bookmark a couple years ago. I made it specifically for Jason White, but I printed one out for myself. And I never read Salem's Lot then, but Salem's Lot is one of those things where you guys were saying that I had to read it, and I did. In Audible form, though, because I felt like that would be the easiest way for me to do it. I am really impressed with myself that I read like 3 vampire books in 1 month. Like, I don't even know what that means anymore. Who am I? So Salem Lot is about this writer who decides he wants to go back to his hometown and write this book about this house. He had a very crazy experience in this house. He saw a ghost, and it was someone like hanging in some part of the house, and that had always really stuck with him. It was terrifying. It was just something that could never let go of. So many, many, many years later now, he comes back and he's going to write a story about this place. But then suddenly someone buys the house, and it's someone from Austria. And he has like some sort of like, he's not a servant, but he's an assistant or something. I don't know what you call him exactly. So he's come and he's taking care of like whatever needs to be done. And some people meet him and they're like, he is weird. Like he's weird. This whole situation is weird. Why would someone come from Austria to this little town in the US and buy a house? Like, it just didn't make any sense. Well, as things go on, there are some murders that begin to happen, and it seems like whatever's going on in the town is like a direct result of this stranger moving to Salem's Lot. So I listened to the Audible of this, and it was really good. Like, I really enjoyed it. It was really, really long. I liked it, I think, because it reminded me of old Stephen King. Like, when I used to read Stephen King, like as a kid, and I was reading all his old books then, it just reminded me of that. I liked the characters, I liked the dialogue, I liked the secrets that you find out about the people in the town. And I really thought the description of Barlow was funny because, like, he explains his face something like clown-like, and then with red, sensual lips. And it just sounded so vulgar, like, ugh. I'm really kind of bored of like these super hot, sexy vampires. So it was sort of really nice to see this vampire, which was disgusting and like horrible. And you don't want to go to bed with this vampire. You don't want him anywhere near you. You don't want him to look at you, you know? And that's terrifying and horrifying. So I really liked that. And I was thinking about how like maybe I would be more into vampires if they were more like that, you know? Just gross. just gross. The performance on the audiobook was also really good. And there was an intro in the beginning of the book that was read by Stephen King, where he talks about his inspiration for Salem's Lot and how basically inspired by his wife's idea to make a Dracula story, but it's like in small town USA, basically, right? So I thought that was really cool. And it felt like I was making some connections to like, oh yeah, that person's sort of like Jonathan Harker. One of the characters I was surprised about, just like I think like the way everything turned out for them, was the Catholic priest. I wasn't really expecting, I guess, that path. It was cool. So I gave Salem's Lot 4.5 out of 5. Now, would I have read it on my own with no audiobook? Let's just say yes. So those were the rest of my books that I read for October. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please like and comment down below if you did. And if you would like more videos from me, please subscribe. Other than that, please take care of yourselves, look out for each other, and I will talk to you next time.